it anyway, for they sometimes saw the star shining on his forehead when he came back from one of the long walks he would take alone, now and then in the evening, or when he returned from a long journey. From time to time he would go off, sometimes walking, sometimes riding, and it was generally supposed that it was on business. And sometimes it was, and sometimes it was not. At any rate, not to get orders for work or to buy pig iron and charcoal and other supplies, though he attended to such things with care, and knew how to turn an honest penny into twopence, as the saying went. But he had business of its own kind in Faery, and he was welcome there, for the star shone bright on his brow, and he was as safe as a mortal can be in that perilous country. The lesser evils avoided the star, and from the greater evils he was guarded. For that he was grateful, for he soon became wise and understood that the marvels of Faery cannot be approached without danger, and that many of the evils cannot be challenged without weapons of power too great for any mortal to wield. He remained a learner and explorer, not a warrior, and though in time he could have forged weapons that in his own world would have had power enough to become the matter of great tales and be worth a king's ransom, he knew that in Faery they would have been of small account. So among all the things that he made, it is not remembered that he ever forged a sword, or a spear, or an arrowhead. In Faery, at first, he walked for the most part quietly among the lesser folk, and the gentler creatures in the woods and meads of fair valleys, and by the bright waters in which at night strange stars shone, and at dawn the gleaming peaks of far mountains were mirrored. Some of his briefer visits he spent looking only at one tree or one flower, but later, in longer journeys, he had seen things of both beauty and terror that he could not clearly remember, nor report to his friends, though he knew that they dwelt deep in his heart. But some things he did not forget, and they remained in his mind as wonders and mysteries that he often recalled. When he first began to walk far without a guide, he thought he would discover the further bounds of the land. But great mountains rose before him, and going by long ways round about them, he came at last to a desolate shore. He stood beside the sea of windless storm, where the blue waves, like snow-clad hills, roll silently out of unlight, to the long strand bearing the white ships that return from battles, on the dark marches of which men know nothing. He saw a great ship cast high upon the land, and the waters fell back in foam without a sound. The elven mariners were tall and terrible. Their swords shone and their spears glinted, and a piercing light was in their eyes. Suddenly they lifted up their voices in a song of triumph, and his heart was shaken with fear, and he fell upon his face, and they passed over him and went away into the echoing hills. Afterwards he went no more to that strand, believing that he was in an island realm beleaguered by the sea, and he turned his mind towards the mountains, desiring to come to the heart of the kingdom. Once in these wanderings he was overtaken by a grey mist, and strayed long at a loss, until the mist rolled away, and he found that he was in a wide plain. Far off there was a great hill of shadow, and out of that shadow, which was its root, he saw the king's tree springing up, tower upon tower, into the sky, and its light was like the sun at noon, and it bore at once leaves and flowers and fruits, uncounted, and not one was the same as any other that grew on the tree. He never saw that tree again, though he often sought for it. On one such journey, climbing into the outer mountains, he came to a deep dale among them, and at its bottom lay a lake, calm and unruffled, though a breeze stirred the woods that surrounded it. In that dale the light was like a red sunset, but the light came up from the lake. From a low cliff that overhung it he looked down, and it seemed that he could see to an immeasurable depth, and there he beheld strange shapes.